Welcome into the Fantasy Sanctuary. Best ball season might be almost over. One game left in week 17, and people are about to get very rich, or not very rich, as the case might be. But we're already turning our attention to playoff best ball. Myself and Tyler back on the stream again for the first time in far too long. Tyler, how's week 17 treating you?
Well, it's a cruel mistress, Tom. As we all know, a lot of players died before going into Week 17, and then a bunch of other players fell on their swords like the warriors they are, and then fell like landmines in my roster. But it's been fun. You know, we asked for a chip in a chair, so regardless, it's nice to have a couple teams in the finals and get what we can out of it. I'm already ready for next season, which is why we're here, because before next season can start, we got to draft some playoff best ball. But yeah, it's fine. You know, you always want for better, but the process hits, it feels good. The rookie wide receivers did not leave me be. They may have been benefiting other people, winning them millions of dollars, but at least I can say directionally accurate, and that's what counts.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel like the team which I took to the finals, it wasn't a team that I ever felt particularly strongly about. So it failing hasn't really surprised me, particularly when James Conner left the game, particularly when Chuba went on IR. Both of them were incredibly chalky. They weren't players who were going to make or break my best ball week. But if they'd played well and I'd had the contrarian stack that I did around the Rams, then, man, I could have at least enjoyed a little bit more of a sweat. But hey, what are you going to do? I think, that it's time to get back into it, definitely. We've got Dylan in the chat saying this is to win $1,200 full PPR. I'm currently in the lead by 49.2 points exactly. My opponent has Gibson, Juwan Jennings, left though. How do you like my odds? Hoping for a low score here. I think you've got this. Like, in terms of what we'd project those players for. So, I mean, you're basically saying you'd need Gibbs to go for 30 and Juwan Jennings to go for 20.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked too much at projections for this slate, but just going over to ETR now, let's take a look at their kind of ceiling. Their projection is 22.7 points for Jahmyr Gibbs, ceiling projection of 38.8. Now, Juwan Jennings is projected for 16.2, so obviously that's 38 points combined, ceiling projection of 29.8. So if both those players hit their ceiling, sure. But I'm not sure. Like, I feel pretty convinced that you've got that, Dylan. Where are you at, Tyler?
Well, I have a little bit of a Coach Speak Index nugget to drop to Dylan. Both Craig Reynolds and Sion Vaki name were specifically mentioned going into this weekend. So, Dan Campbell's like, we're going to load up Gibbs, but we want to be smart with him. Yeah. And that was before all the seeding, will they play a full game, whatever. I know they want to beat the pants off of this team and then throttle back. Here's the good news. They can absolutely do that with a few tutties. And it sounds like they are going to involve Craig Reynolds and Sion Vaki to manage Gibbs' workload. So the ceiling projection on Gibbs is if you can escape the first half without Gibbs nuking, you got to feel good. And then as far as Jennings is concerned, as a Jennings bull the back half of the year, it's been pretty hard to not notice that they are trying to feed Kittle and Debo going down the stretch. Debo finally having his first real spike previous week. And now they get Grindo back so they can actually trust the run game. Detroit's defense is completely riddled with injuries, so they're not a pass funnel purely anymore. And so and then San Francisco's just been kind of a mess in the red zone and scoring in general. So both those guys have to hit like nut ceiling outcomes for you to lose out. And quite frankly, if garbage time is going to happen, it seems like it's going to go to guys like Ricky and Debo and Kittle more so than Jennings for what it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got this one, Dylan, and do let us know how you get on. Love hearing when people have won their leagues. Like,
I'm going to prematurely for you, buddy.
I mean, Monday mornings normally to be on Twitter for seeing people having their success anyway. Tomorrow's going to be even better with everybody taking down these tournaments. We're going to jump into the first of our tournaments. We're going to start with drafters tonight before moving over to Underdog. We will be drafting in a few of the different contests. And the drafters one, for anyone who hasn't got into it yet, I'll go over the format in a minute, but we'll just hop in and join. I don't know how quickly the $20 fill in. I've been drafting a bunch of the $3 ones to kind of get warmed up and get used to the format. It is start one quarterback, one running back, two wide receivers, a tight end, and one flex. 16 drafts, 12 rounds. So you do have the potential to start up to 3 wide receivers, whereas you're never going to start more than 2 running backs in a week. Tyler, not been a great year for us zero RB bros, but do you feel like this is one where you still don't want to be too running back heavy at the top?
I think it's still a scarcity issue, right? Like there's only so many valuable running backs. That said, we've seen in the playoffs teams have like specific ways they want to play the game and do the thing. And when the chips fall, we've seen teams like get serious with passing the ball, especially when it starts getting out of reach. So one thing is these dinosaur coaches will be pushed to the pass in coming out in the second halves if they don't have the game under control. So you really start to see like throttling back of running back usage, especially with a bunch of guys dinged up. So yes, zero running back wasn't as strong as it could be. We still saw it have value outside of a few injuries in the fantasy playoffs. I don't think this is any different as far as like workload management and critical down stuff. Like the guys are going to be counted on, but you're still going to have contributors. The Justice Hills of the world and etc. will still have their packages grow weekly as far as usage is concerned. And they're going to lean into the quarterbacks they're doing well. I think the only running backs you're going to want to just avoid the bad team running backs, because if they start losing quickly, those guys have less value in catch-up mode. So I think there's definitely value there of the backup guys on the best teams. Your Kenny Gainwells, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's like teams in the playoffs just have the tendency to lean into what they do well. It's why we always see Patrick Mahomes rushing more in the playoffs, taking that kind of Superman approach. It's why we see teams really lean into things. Unless you're the Ravens last year against the Chiefs, and then you just forget that you've got a running game. But generally speaking, just like leaning into that kind of mindset for these contests is where I want to be. Drafters are offering bonus entries for every 10 draft. Once you've done 10 drafts, you'll get a bonus ticket. Same for when you hit 25, 50, 100, and 150. So if you've not played before, I do recommend just jumping into the $3 low stakes contest and getting a feel for them. In terms of the mindset overall, there are so many teams that die at the first hurdle of these playoff contests because they forget about the end goal. The end goal is simply within a round or two of your draft starting, you need to be thinking about what the potential Super Bowl is, because if you get to the Super Bowl and you're not accumulating any points in that week, you're just going to get left for dust by everybody who has players in that. So whether that means stacking 2 offenses heavily, whether it means stacking like maybe 3, generally speaking, I'm a 1 QB or 2 QB guy in these 12-round leagues. I think you can get away with 2 quite often. But Tyler, like, are there any kind of Super Bowl pairings that you feel are really beneficial for this contest at the minute before we know the playoff field's completely set?
Yeah, so it's a note is you're either targeting 2 bye teams that are the likeliest to make the Super Bowl, and you're going to try to pad those buys out, but then you're going to have two offensive shots at the Super Bowl, or you go for specific pairings of guys. We were talking about it pre-show. Vikings looking a lot stronger than maybe the market's giving them value for, given how Darnold's playing in the KOC offense, how healthy the offense has been as far as the passing game is concerned, and how they're able to utilize Cam Akers to offset any sort of Aaron Jones drop-off. And it hasn't been looking that much different, and how strong the defense is. So there's certainly value there with a team getting hot like that, whereas a team like the Eagles, somewhat once again kind of struggling late, but on the back of a strong defense. So pairing, Vikings Chiefs, makes a lot of sense. If you're going for the Bills, I think Bills are a strong pairing with a team like the Vikings as well. Obviously, everybody's going to be really horned up for the Lions. You want to note that those guys are also strong leanings for the bye as well. One team, it's now that Washington's making the playoffs, they're a sneaky fun team to pair with your other guys. Just Jaden's playing at a really high level. The defense is playing at a really high level, and they've got a dual threat quarterback that's hitting his ceiling for passing and playing in clutch situations. That seems like another undervalued team potentially to pair with your Super Bowl favorites, whatever side you take.
Yeah, I really like that, because outside of Terry McLaurin, it's not like any one of the commanders is particularly expensive. Brian Robinson's been pretty miserable over the last few weeks, and I think if you were to talk yourself into them making a run, somebody like Austin Eckler is a 12th round pick, is somebody who's probably not being drafted by just about anyone. Like, I don't think either of us were particularly high on Austin Eckler this year, which kind of turned out to be the right play. Brian Robinson's been pretty disappointing over the last few weeks. So whether you can leverage something like that, obviously we've seen Olamide Zaccheaus just looking fantastic over the last couple of weeks as well. I have jumped into the $3 draft. The $20 draft looked like it was filling particularly slowly. I don't know if we've just hit a day for drafters, but the $3 ones do tend to fill quite quickly. We are just waiting for one more, and then we'll get into it. Tyler, any kind of lean on where you want to pick in these drafts, back end or front end?
It's hard to really feel good about a pick position simply because you don't know how the room is going to react. And what you kind of see is some rooms are more, staying in your lane, optimizing for their Super Bowl, and others are chaotic. So it's hard to feel really good about a pick. Obviously, the early round picks allow you to kind of drive your destiny, a Super Bowl matchup, whereas the back end, you're kind of reacting to who's gone and trying to make the best of it. In these early ones, I guess I'd lean an earlier draft slot to try to, play for the outcome I want as far as Super Bowl pairings and not have to react quite as much from early on, and hopefully in a good room that allows you to steer it towards yourself. It's just hard to know. Every room's different, and that's not changed from 8 months ago when we were doing drafts before the playoffs.
Yeah, I think my lean is slightly towards one of the top 3 spots because I typically want one of the elite quarterbacks in Lamar, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts, because I think what they offer you can really separate at the position. Maybe Jaden Daniels is a way to negate that by taking him if you miss out on those guys. Building as a 2 QB room instead. But I don't think there's any positions in the draft which are overly bad. I think typically we will see Lamar, Allen, Hurts, and Saquon Barkley as the top 4 picks, and then it starts to open up a little bit. Do you have any kind of interest in taking guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who it feels like they're on a very difficult path to trying to get into the playoffs now?
Yeah, they're at a 10% chance right now, and I just thinking back to last year, the same type of play was kind of like the Jaguars and the Chargers of look how undervalued they are, and if they just win, a couple things go right. And my problem is there's a reason why those teams are on the playoff cusp, and at a 10% chance right now is things set. That's a pretty thin line. But then even when that team gets in there, we've seen this team struggle back-to-back weeks against Denver, middling offense, pretty good defense, and the Cleveland Browns, very bad team. And a Cincinnati team coming in, their defense is just so sad that you don't feel good about their odds going up against the next round of offenses and defenses. The top tier teams that have been playing really well. I just don't have as much interest in that. I think the value there is maybe if you get kind of boxed out and blocked out of something in a chaotic room, they're not a bad fallback for hey, it's a thin path anyway. This team just doesn't feel like one that's going to go far in the playoffs, even if they do make it, simply because of how the offensive line and how the defense are playing. Obviously, the offense is clicking really well, but we've seen this team kind of have its slow rollings at head coach and offensive line, and just makes it a hard pill to swallow. If they were blowing teams out and handling business, it'd be one thing. And I don't know. And the last 2 games have been pretty telling about their chances and their odds of going up against the top tier talent in the playoffs from my angle personally.
Yeah, I think I can get on board with that. Techers in the chat, one of us kicked out of DraftKings. Evening, guys. I've not found anywhere to play since DraftKings closed down. On Drafters, do they do best ball season long like DraftKings did? Yes, they do. They do the sit and goes as well as the tournaments. It's cumulative scoring rather than tournaments, so you don't have to worry about pod luck or anything like that. But it is a fun format. It's a decent website. I have been drafting on here for the last couple of years. I think that they've really made some improvements. It's a really nice interface. And I would also say you can check out FFPC if you're looking for somewhere to draft. There is a little more high stakes, starting from $35 upwards, but some very good contests. Tyler, we are 1 pick away. The big 3 do go off the board. And then I'm expecting Saquon Barkley. Oh, no, sorry. Mahomes going at QB2. So Jalen Hurts goes 4 QBs. We could take Barkley, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and maybe try and do a line stack with Gibbs and Amon-Ra. Are you interested in that?
I like the Lions. Being able to build out that stack and potentially dissuading the other teams from taking Goff gives us a nice shot both for 2 weeks and Super Bowl. Wanting to note for folks that the Lions currently sit at 34% to make the Super Bowl. Sure, their defense is pretty weak. That said, the offense is really strong. They can win in a multitude of ways. We get sniped at the Mon-Ra Goff at the 1-2 turn. So what are we thinking, Tom?
I mean, we could lean into Lions Ravens maybe and go with Derrick Henry, or we could push a little further down Travis Kelce. I don't know.
I like the Henry shout. Yeah, Ravens. I mean, as far as AFC shots, it's also directly leverage off of Lamar in that. So yeah, Henry feels like a nice pivot there. Considering they're at 25% to make the Super Bowl.
So I mean, we're not going to get either Goff and we're not going to get Lamar, obviously. So at that point, do you kind of say maybe we're not going to get a quarterback to the final week, but can we just build up as big a stack around that, or do you start going, maybe let's wait till later on and look at a team like the Chargers and hope that he gets there?
I mean, yeah, it's going to be kind of how the room plays out. I don't mind just saying that, like, hey, we might be quarterbackless and a dog to win first overall, but that doesn't mean that we're locked out of, like, say the top 10, considering how scoring can work and how both of these running backs kind of have been able to have their biggest weeks while their quarterbacks do not. Yeah.
With you on that one. We got Mr. Magic in the chat saying up 28 points, but his opponent's got Brock Purdy. I think you're okay. I don't think we're going to see a 28-point game from Brock Purdy tonight.
Not now that Garindo's in. I think with Garindo out, the Purdy rushing becomes scary, but yeah.
Now, we've obviously got Gibbs already. Do we want to spoil the team on returns, look and take one of JMO or Sam Laporta, or would you rather look elsewhere?
I think, so as far as tight end is concerned, is Mark Andrews or Laporta stronger? I feel like,
I think we could take either that comes back to us, to be honest.
Yeah, so let's go JMO.
Let's
see the receiver.
Yeah, it just feels like he's hitting the right point. And, when the game's on the line, you want those big points and the big plays. So Mark Andrews or Sam Laporta, they're both there still.
Yeah, let's just build out the Lions headless stack and go from there.
Nice. I like that.
There's always the cheeky Baltimore backup quarterback. If Lamar gets injured, we get some points. I don't know how you feel about that strategy as well. Or the Teddy Bridgewater, we're blowing teams out, we're protecting Goff.
I mean, yeah, Josh Johnson has shown he's not actually particularly good, but
no.
I can definitely understand that. I think I'd be more tempted by guys like Tez Walker and that if we were going to scroll down for somebody different on the Ravens and just try to bank QB points for maybe rounds 1 and round 2 by looking at guys like, Justin Herbert or Bo Nix potentially, who probably is sliding out of a decent amount of ease at the minute. We're back on the clock now. Mark Andrews has gone. In terms of wide receiver, it's starting to thin out a little bit already. Do you want to take one of these Chiefs guys and maybe give ourselves a little bit of a path to an AFC Championship wide receiver who's going to run through?
Yeah, I think that's a smart shout. And then Hollywood's been getting a lot more targets than Nuke, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think he's only going to get stronger too. Anyone else in the wide receivers that you'd like? Would you want DeAndre Hopkins if he comes back around?
I think Bateman makes more sense for this team, and I knew you were just waiting for me to say
it. Just tee you up and let you.
Hey, I took my Bateman medicine this year.
Hey, I mean, you had plenty of exposure in BBM.
I did, famously above the field by 0.9%.
No, I think it's a good shout, and Bateman has developed in a way which I wasn't even necessarily sure he was. The play for me was always that Bateman was just going to be attached to Lamar and would have good opportunities on offense, which was going to pass a lot because I thought the defense would regress, all of which kind of came true. Ultimately, I didn't expect Bateman to catch as many touchdowns as he has. I thought more would be going to Zay Flowers, but yeah, it's been a good season. I think he can kick on in the playoffs for sure. So now through 6 rounds, we've got Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Hollywood Brown, and Rashad Bateman, setting up that kind of Chiefs-Ravens AFC Championship game. and ideally taking the Ravens and the Lions to the Super Bowl. In terms of the quarterbacks who are left, there is Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix. Any in particular you'd like to start thinking about, maybe try to backdoor a stack to?
Jaden, like we talked about Jaden, his ceiling and his floor is so high and his stacking partners are so cheap. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, if we can take Jaden Daniels, if they could win 2 playoff games, I think that would be very much worth doing.
They've got the right offense and defensive combos to do it.
Yeah, let's take Jaden Daniels and lock him in. I don't really feel like we probably should have pushed that around the corner, but
yeah, I had the thought, but it's all right. He took guys we weren't going to take.
Yeah, so running back, there's Pacheco, who we could pair with Hollywood Brown. That would be our final running back we'd probably need. Wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, Jaden Reed, who's firmly on the shit list these days, Mike Evans, Tim Patrick. Anyone you see in Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, we pushed Nuke. Getting him here makes sense.
Yep, I'm down with that. So now we've got wide receiver room with JMO, Hollywood Brown, Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins. Not necessarily volume hog guys, but guys with big play potential. Let me get to this question in the chat from Techers. Do we do slow drafting season long on drafters? FFPC would be a little for my ability. Yeah, they do see slow drafts for drafters. They give email notifications. It's a really solid system, and they have drafts starting from, I think it was $2 last year was the lowest price entry one.
$2, $3, $5, all the way up to like what $100 entry stuff. I did plenty of fast and slow draft this year and last year. So
yeah, it's well worth checking out. I mean, I imagine they'll have contests launching pretty soon around the Super Bowl. They definitely weren't far behind anyone else last year. If you are abroad, you do have to manually verify when you go to withdraw. You have to speak to their customer services. I know one guy had to send a selfie of him holding his passport, but they make it work. So yeah,
I heard one guy had to whip his wiener out as a verification.
Was that you, Tyler?
I can't disclose that confidential wiener information.
Right. So should we be looking for someone to pair with Jaden Daniels? Like we can get to Zach Ertz definitely later.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're kind of in a good spot of running back. We could take.
Is Eckler still on the board?
Eckler will still be on the board, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got 4 slots. I wonder, do we just jam in all the commanders here, or do we want another chief like Watson or something?
Take Brian Robinson's off the board. We've got 10 seconds left to go. We could take Christian Watson would be.
Oh, I meant Justin for the Chiefs.
Panicking and just taking Christian Watson there. Sorry, man. I ran the clock down too far.
None of Yeah, I was thinking one of like Noah Gray or Justin Watson.
Yep. Well, we could definitely take Noah Gray here if you like. I like that as a shout.
He just went. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course he did. Justin Watson then, or do you want to take? Should we take Zach Ertz and seal that stuff?
Yeah, I think we take we take Ertz for sure, and then the question is just do we want like an Eckler and then another Chief, or do we want Eckler and another Raven? I think that's probably.
Yeah, let's see what's in terms of the Ravens. Keaton Mitchell, Devontae Walker, Nelson Aguilar, Charlie Kohler, Tylan Wallace, and then that like Rasheen Ali, who had a decent bit of run.
You're the Ravens guy, so this is your territory.
Well, I mean, they talked about wanting to get Devontae Walker more involved, and then last week immediately he wasn't involved. It's kind of still one catch, one touchdown stuff. Nelson Aguilar is somebody I think we probably trust a little bit more. Keaton Mitchell, I think with Rasheen Ali healthy, we just don't seem to be trusting him fully out there. Obviously, he got all the garbage time this week. I know we've got Rory in the chat saying Keaton, which, I mean...
Did Monty go?
Montgomery. Let's have a look.
I guess
David Montgomery's
there you go. I think that makes sense. They were hopeful and optimistic. We have Lions pieces, so like Montgomery and then either Justin Watson or a commander makes sense here with the Jaden or the Ravens or the Chief stuff?
Olamide Zacchaeus is gone. Dami Brown is obviously injured at the minute, isn't he? But could be back. Yeah, I mean, Luke McCaffrey would be the complete dart throw. Justice has been taken, Rory.
Did Eckler go? That's probably
Eckler's still there.
Yeah,
I think
it's
Eckler
Eckler.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
he's their wide receiver too when he's healthy. Olamede's getting that because Eckler's out and they just don't trust the second guy. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, like the amount of games which the Commanders have been behind and they're chasing the game script on, it's so often. And, you know, I saw a stat today about how Jaden Daniels has thrown more quarterbacks in the last minute and a half of a game or something than any other rookie in history has done. And it's all down to the fact that the Commanders constantly chase. So, yeah, I like the pass-heavy kind of script of this one, finishing up with a 1-4-5-2, just a single quarterback in Jaden Daniels, which might be a bit of a weak spot for us, but we've got Jaden Daniels, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Austin Eckler, then Jameson Williams, Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Watson, Sam Laporta, and Zach Ertz. What are you thinking, Tyler?
I mean, yeah, outside of just the miscommunication on the Watsons, I think we built that as good as we could have with the team on the corner going the Goff thing, kind of rugging us there. But as far as viability, and I think we've gotten two of the most, like, we've seen that Zach Ertz and Eckler can both be the main, like, everybody in the Commanders can be the main guy any given week. And if the Commanders go farther than we think, we still have some very viable pieces. And I think we've captured a lot of good spike guys at cheap. Yeah, it's not the safest or most easy, but it's got some outs to have some top outcomes.
Yeah, well, let's jump in another one of these $3 ones just because they're filling nice and quick. We are going to stream some more playoff best ball drafts over the next couple of weeks till the playoffs get underway, and maybe we'll jump into some of the higher stake ones as we go. But we are doing this, and then after that, we'll jump on over to Underdog and see what Underdog throws us for differences in ADPs. France Ferris asking, how many wide receivers do you need to start in this format? So it is start 2 wide receivers and then a potential flex of a wide receiver as well. In that draft there, where we took 4 running backs, we'd probably be hoping for 2 running backs at a minimum every single week, one of them filling the flex. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm okay with hitting 3 running backs if we go 2 running backs early and then seeing how things go. But it just felt like because of that structure and because of what we had going, it made a bit of sense to get there with Austin Eckler late on. Where are we at? If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, people. We are a couple of subs away from 3,400, which would be a nice little one to hit before the end of the year. Crossed 350,000 views in the last 2 years recently, which we very much appreciate everyone's support. And you know, if you look for more best ball content, more rookie content, be sure to check out the join button down below, because Rich is already warming up the machine, ready to get going for the 2025 rookie guide. Last year's was incredible. This year's will be even better. Picking from the 4th spot in this one, Tyler, do you recognize any of these names?
Oh, I mean, friend of the channel, Who Hames, for sure, getting in there. So we can shame him if he snipes us.
Techers asks, how competitive would you say the competition is on drafters, underdog level or more like DraftKings? I think it's kind of its own beast, because
somewhere in the middle.
With the cumulative scoring, I think there's a lot of people who just don't really understand the format as much and are shooting for upside in ways that you don't need to. Like, I'm less likely to go 0 RB on drafters. I know our friend Updog had a nice 0 RB team. I think it was last year that finished really well. But I think that ultimately I just don't want to take zeros in cumulative scoring in a way that I think you can sometimes survive in tournament best ball. Tyler, are there any kind of main approaches that you bring to drafters that you don't do elsewhere?
I mean, it's just drafters is PPR like DraftKings is, but without the bonuses, and it's cumulative. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like that fine balance of like sound team building, but you want to capture some high projection, but then I think late in the draft, feel free to get a little off the board to differentiate yourself on the competition, which I think is a fine needle that's different than Underdog and DraftKings, where it's tourney structured. And then, from the Underdog perspective, it's always going to be a little bit sharper. I will say that, it depends on your room, because every once in a while I will get in a room with a lot of sharp spike week, 1 week season, or ETR folks, and they know what they're doing. They know how to build. So it just really depends on the room, but a lot of people don't really understand the format in general, but especially platform to platform, it's not all similar. So, you said it. It's its own beast.
Yeah, so Josh Allen goes off the board first, and then Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts at top of ADP. Would you be tempted to move down to Patrick Mahomes and kind of get that number 1 seed locked up with Amon-Ra St. Brown going next, or Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, that is the tough thing, because let's see, the Eagles are at no, but I think Hurts makes a lot of sense for high floor, high ceiling, and no need to, that's a quarterback we can squeak away with one, right, and give us some viability. Whereas Mahomes, you're taking that 0 with the bye.
Yeah, and I think if Jalen Hurts doesn't make it deep into the playoffs, and it ultimately doesn't matter, we're not going to win anything. We might min cash, might do okay if we hit on some other picks, but I'm completely fine with that. And, just purely on the off chance, if Saquon Barkley made it back around to us here, which he doesn't, thanks to Who-Hams, but it would have been very exciting. Would it straight click to AJ Brown, or do you want to pair this with Eagles-Ravens type build?
No, I think we just accumulate the Eagles and build out Eagles Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I'm very much down with that.
Strongest defense they've had in quite a while, so I think that helps their odds to really be able to crash through really well.
Yeah, solid point from Who-Hams here. I sometimes take all AFC or NFC since it's total points. If you take 2 AFC teams fully stacked, there's a reasonable chance to have points every week, and you've definitely got enough roster spots at 12 to be able to do that. If you want to stack something like the Ravens with the Chargers, or something where you can really concentrate on one team early and then concentrate on another team whose ADP is a bit more suppressed later. I really like that.
And if you're going to do that, I think I like doing that with high ceiling offenses, and kind of we talked about. So like pairings for that would be in a really fun way, ADP wise, like Lions and Commanders, or teams like that, where really high scoring offenses, cheap pieces.
Lions and Bucks. Yeah.
Lions and Bucks. The Bucks, I worry that they might be one and done, just with how wonky Baker and the O-line has been and how bad the defense is. I think you could at least get multiple games out of both teams. I just feel really strongly about the Commanders versus the Bucks right now, especially when it comes to coaching. The Bucks coaching staff's been pretty donkey-esque.
So Devonta Smith goes off the board, top of ADP, Travis Kelce, Zay Flowers, J-Mo, Khalil Shakir, Mark Andrews, Aaron Jones, and still a way to go before the next Eagle. Kind of pick your poison on the AFC side here, really, to me.
I mean, Kelce in the playoffs, Eagles, Chiefs, Super Bowl, Eagles not getting the bye. This sets up pretty clean for us.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Obviously, we've got Who-Hams, who's taking Worthy and is also looking at a bit of an Eagles Chiefs set, but I think there's probably enough for us both there.
Luckily the Chiefs will throw to 5 or 6 different guys every week, so there's enough to go around.
Yeah, Techers, you can definitely find sit and goes against. I think they do them from 3 people all the way up to 12. That's complete variety of pay, so it's not all just tournaments. Right, so we are 1 pick away. I would imagine that Who-Hams is probably going to take Isaiah Pacheco here, but he doesn't. So do we want Pacheco as our running back 1?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's just he's a less strong pick than he was last year, just with how they've been utilizing Kareem Hunt in the backfield. But this is the Chiefs; they tend to do some weird stuff. They'll have the bye, so that lets Pacheco, who is coming off a leg injury, and we should have expected him to have a severe dip in efficiency and usage per the docs. We kind of saw that. Will that continue in the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. Especially when he gets a week of rest. So I think the ADP is fair.
Well, I mean, Pacheco's not going to play this week, is he? And then he's got the bye week as well. Pacheco, next time we see him, could be markedly better than he is now.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And yeah, like you say, it's the same injury that Tony Pollard had, the same one that Mark Andrews had. It is something that takes time to come back from. So I am bullish on him. In terms of next year, I was putting together a video which I'll have up on the channel maybe tomorrow or the day after about ADP for next year and where I'd take guys. And Pacheco, I'd definitely struggled to put him into the second round. We can come back to that in a minute. But do you want DeAndre Hopkins here or Dallas Goedert?
I think it's I don't know how soon Goddard's coming back, so I think Hopkins makes more sense.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I think Hopkins. I mean, one of Hopkins or Hollywood. I think Hopkins makes now. Yeah, Hollywood's been getting so many targets; it's hard to ignore.
Let's go Hollywood then. Yeah. So, Tyler, I mean, we can get to it after this next pick, but like, how high would you be willing to take Isaiah Pacheco in next year's draft? I'll let you ruminate on that one, but we're one pick away now. DeAndre Hopkins does go. Dallas Goedert and just lock in that double.
Yep.
Nice. And now we're done at tight end. So we've got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Hollywood Brown, Dallas Goedert. Two really strong offenses that could definitely be playing in the Super Bowl. Where would you take Pacheco in 2025?
Not very high. I mean, I didn't like his ADP this year. It felt a little fragile versus all the running backs. And I mean, this is a team that just doesn't mind spreading it around. And now that they've already lost him for a chance of the season and they kind of like mixing it in, it's kind of just dubious chasing Kansas City running back high year to year, just with how they utilize guys. And we have no idea what they're going to allocate in free agency and in the draft. I don't know. It feels like a spot I won't feel the desire to chase because this offense at its best is utilizing a lot of like quick passing to the explosive receivers and then just grinding out the critical downs. So I'm not super into it, but I wasn't into it coming into this year.
So we've only got the one running back so far in Pacheco. Running backs at the top are Joe Mixon, Kareem Hunt. We could take both Chiefs running backs.
I like both Chiefs running backs, and I was going to suggest that.
Lovely. Very much down with that.
Got this question from I am the KY, by the way, that I just wanted to say. Any merit to scrolling and staying scrolled like building KC, Tampa Bay? I think there's quite a bit of merit to it, especially an offense like the Chiefs that looks like it's finally hitting the gear it needs to with everybody healthy.
Yeah, I'm right there too. I think it's like just basically selecting two teams to just build your draft around as much as possible. You're not going to hit every time. So if you're only doing one draft, you probably don't want to. But like if you're viewing this as I'm going to do 20 drafts, so I would like some exposure to this team, some exposure to this combination, that's the best way to come out of going, I'd like some Chiefs Vikings teams. I'd like some Ravens Vikings teams and stuff like that. We're back up on the board now. Obviously got two wide receivers, two running backs, two tight ends. We can kind of go anywhere with it. The running backs don't look particularly great. Kenny Gainwell is there, but probably comes back. We've got Jaden Reed, Rashad Bateman, Tim Patrick, George Pickens, Mike Evans, Christian Watson, T. Higgins.
I'm tempted to take Evans as like a nice nuke piece for first round stuff. And then we can kind of finish out the rest of the stuff just because we do have a lot of receivers on bye.
No, I'm good with that. I think that is a nice shout. Yeah, so where I landed, put him down as 310. So I would take him like at the back end of round 3. I would take Bucky Irving ahead of him. I'd take Jonathan Taylor ahead of him. I'd take James Cook ahead of him. Kyron Williams. Like I'd be completely comfortable. One player who gave me a bit of a headache though was Christian McCaffrey. Like I couldn't quite decide where I wanted to take him. At the minute, I've kind of got him right at the back end of round 2, early round 3, and that feels like something which people are even going to be big mad about or completely on board with and say that I'm too high on him.
I'm not going to be super into a 29-year-old running back going on 30, coming off an Achilles, and I'm not going to be that into. I do want to remind folks that like the projected volume for Pacheco was fragile even before he got hurt. They were mixing in guys like Carson Steele in camp and trying to see what the other guys were getting, and I don't see them not doing that again this coming year. So I'd rather chase the guys that have been given full workloads and looked awesome doing it, not one or the other. With an early pick, typically.
So, look, if we're leaning into Mike Evans for a bit of a dart throw there, should we take your boy?
I think we can push him another pick, and I'd rather do that and secure another. We don't have a running back that's not on bye. Let's go.
I mean, we could go Bucky. No, Bucky's gone. Rashad White, Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, let's do Kenny Gainwell just for the Super Bowl stuff, and then we can go from there.
Okay. Yeah. So providing the.
I forgot we had AJ Brown. So we have first round bye coverage.
Yeah, I mean we're just about there in terms of a team. It's going to be a little thin, but like sometimes in normal best ball tournament playoffs, like that would be maybe a little thin, and you'd be worrying about getting out of that first pod. But I think in this total points format, I'm willing to push it and be a little thin. I think you need some thin
stuff to make it work anyway, because like Huham's mentioned, early ADPs allowed some really nice builds. So here, I think you got to build a little thin and a little smart to get out of there. And I think we still do have those outs, quite frankly.
Yeah, and Huham's building this kind of Chargers secondary stack to go with Chiefs stack that they've got. The team on the corners got Lions and Commanders, which should free us up to be able to do what we want with the Bucks. Yeah. Do you want to take Baker and lock in Baker as our second quarterback here, or would you rather go with McMillan or Rashad White or a tight end?
Yeah, I think we need to get a viable running. Yeah, I think we go without Baker here. I think we just got to roll with Hurts and build this thin bed out a little bit stronger.
Rashad White?
Yeah, makes sense. I know he's not been the loveliest, but if Bucky misses any time, he's huge leverage on Bucky, and if they're scoring a lot of points, he can still catch a dump off.
He's not been completely scripted out of things. Like he is playing a decent amount, and yes, Bucky's been just so explosive and so productive, but like there's been plenty of weeks where Rashad White's put up usable weeks, and like if you get into a pass heavy script, then I think you do see more Rashad White than you are going to see Bucky in those scenarios. Shout out Bindles, always good to see him. So where we're at through 10 rounds, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Hollywood Brown, Dallas Goedert, Kareem Hunt, Mike Evans, Kenny Gainwell, Rashad White. Structurally, I think I prefer this team to what we had in the last one so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can, land the plane nicely, then it'll be great. Tech is saying chasing round 12 here just in case they make it as a shot. I just don't believe the Bengals are going to make it. I just think
it seems like a dead spot at 10% to make it, and I'm very worried they're like one and done. And we've seen that T and Yoshi are not going anywhere either. So I don't know. I just need like a 40-point game out of Chase for it to really matter if he makes it.
Yeah. Should we take McMillan here and then Baker on the way back? Like both these teams after us have two quarterbacks already.
McMillan for sure, given the receivers. He's been super strong. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think and the thing on Chase as well, if the Bengals did make it, I would merely just accept it that, my rosters won't get as much value as some of the other teams that have already drafted, but I'd just make up for it and just, try to draft structurally sound teams with them and see if you can get unique combinations. Because a lot of the teams who are going to be drafting Bengals probably aren't going to be going super heavy. Are they going to be drafting Mike Gesicki? Are they going to be drafting guys further down? So there'll be ways that you could add to it.
Yeah.
And Baker does come back to us. Let's lock that one.
The other thing you got to remember too is some of these teams are going to have 2-3 shots at outscoring and potentially single week Chase or single week T. And if they don't score, 30 plus, then that's not hard to do. We just saw Olamide Zaccheaus almost scored 2 touchdowns. We've seen McMillan scored 2 touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 weeks, and then scored 2 touchdowns the last 2 or 3 weeks, etc. So I just think there's better versions of that bet, like Ladd McConkey, for instance. They're more live to go multiple weeks, given their offense and defense, and his role is equally strong. It's just I'd rather go after guys with strong roles with more than one. Like the 1 week isn't guaranteed in the chamber, so you're making something thin even thinner. It's hard to want to sign up for that if you're not doing max volume.
Yeah. So we round that one out with Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Kenny Gainwell, Rashad White, AJ Brown, Hollywood Brown, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, Travis Kelce, Dallas Goddard. If the Bucks could win a game, then I'd feel pretty good about this team. And then the Eagles and the Chiefs obviously carrying things to the Super Bowl. If you were counting on the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, you would be looking at Jalen Hurts, Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Kenny Gainwell, all viable to start there. Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown, and then potentially Travis Kelce, Dallas got a flex option for one of them. So it's a nice team. How'd you like that one, Tyler?
Yeah, I think that one worked out nicer than the last one as far as just viability for all the way up to the top.
And that's definitely something you find with these drafts. The more you do, the more you start feeling better about the teams as you draft them, and you'll just land on those different combinations in the different draft rooms. Tyler, enough with drafters. Should we jump over to Underdog and get on with drafting there?
Why not?
So, in terms of the Underdog offerings, which contest are we in?
Jumped into the Mitten. Figure that'll fill probably faster than the Gauntlet, but I will just give a little gambit for the fine folks if they haven't looked at the playoff best ball offerings. The Gauntlet, their classic $25 entry, 200K to first, kind of 300 person seat final. So this is pretty similar. Got the $5 entry Mitten. So 30,000 more entrants, 50K to first, but similar advanced structure as well. So our structure will be 2 out of 6, then 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 375. But they also have the big Mitten and the bigger Mitten. Higher entry points, smaller fields, softer advance rates, etc.
Nice.
And I didn't share my screen showing that. Hold on. Here we go. Look at me being rusty. Gauntlet, Mitten 2, big Mitten, bigger Mitten. There you go,
guys. Nice. So in terms of how many, these are 6-person, same as before, right? And how many rounds are these?
10 rounds.
10 rounds, so slightly smaller pool. Some of the guys that we would be able to scroll down on won't get drafted in this one. We get the 101. Where we going, Tyler?
Well, it's a good question. Locking in, Bills at 22% to make the Super Bowl, Ravens 25%. Bills have already locked in playoffs. Ravens have already locked in the playoffs. So it's really just how do we want to build this out? Which way do we want to go? Who feels stronger right now, the Bills or the Ravens? I feel like that's really just what it comes down to.
I mean, Bills defense has gotten worse over the last few weeks. They've beaten up on some bad teams. Ravens defense has gotten better, whether that means that the Ravens are less likely to put up points. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm sitting here with 2 jerseys behind me as well as a hoodie on. There's my bias is pretty clear on this one.
Okay, guys, look, I'm warning you ahead of time. When I hit this button, Tom may have a projectile come from below the belt, and I am not responsible for who he injures.
Oh, it's been too long. Love to see it.
No, I like the Ravens shots. Lamar playing like another MVP yet again. Offense being very productive and versatile. Guys like Tez coming on. Justice, hopefully coming back helps. They've been able to win in multiple ways. Lest we forget, they almost stole a win versus the Chiefs opening night. With just a single toe of Isaiah Likely out of bounds for nearly the game-winning touchdown. The way they've been playing very well, and like you noted, the defense getting better. Chiefs defense struggling, loses Chris Jones last week to an injury. Their offense is getting healthier, but I mean, as far as the teams, I also think that the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff is just much more aware and sharper in how to game manage than the Bills. We've seen that the last few seasons. And that's really important when it comes down to these, playoff matchups, stealing a game versus a really good team. I'm kind of partial to building out to Lamar. We see year over year folks really horned up for Josh Allen. I think there's value in taking Lamar, who has shown just as high ceiling and floor with that offense.
Yeah, and I think we still get the discount on the fact that Lamar has only one real good playoff win against 2, one against the Titans and one against the Texans last year. but people still seem to believe he can't do it in the playoffs. But you look at the regular season games he's won this year, dominated the Broncos, dominated the Chargers. You go back to last year, dominated the Niners and the Dolphins. Like, I think when it matters, when the game plan stays within touch, they're pretty good. And I'd be completely fine just staying heavy on the Ravens here. We do lose Derrick Henry, one pick ahead of us. Zay Flowers, the obvious kind of one here, but where would you go with the second pick, Tyler?
Well, yeah, is it Mark Andrews or is it Rashad? Who we feel better about floor and ceiling?
I feel better about Mark Andrews for touchdown equity at the minute. I mean, what is it, 10 straight weeks that Mark Andrews been in the end zone? He's moving so much better than he was at the start of the season. He doesn't see the highest level of volume compared to some of the elite tight ends at the minute, but I think the plays where he gets home a higher likelihood than Rashad Bateman, where it's really downfield. Like Rashad Bateman's ADOT among wide receivers with 50 or more targets is like top 7 this year. So you're always getting big results when it pays off, but it's tricky.
Yeah, no, fully agree. And one thing to note for folks on Underdog, it's the wide receivers and tight ends are in the same category. And this is 1 QB, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver or tight end, 1 flex, 5 bench.
Do you prefer that, bringing the wide receivers and the tight end into the same kind of category for this playoff contest?
I do. For me, it kind of simplifies the process and it makes sense. It makes sense just pass catcher and not having to delve between the types of pass catchers, especially kind of at a certain point, the line for projected points at least gets the same. For me, it's just simpler to go, okay, my starting is 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 pass catchers, and then 5 bench. And it for who's hitting that, it's like I just want the pass catcher scoring a lot of points. And so that's why it makes sense. For me, it makes sense, like draft, Mark Andrews, etc. So I don't mind it at all. I think it's easier to wrap your head around and build out starting lineup.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, definitely. It's such a volatile position anyway. So this draft, in terms of how it's playing out, pretty normal. You've got most teams that are taking the QB early and then stacking. We've got a Chiefs Eagles kind of stack. We've got a Bills Vikings one. Any kind of team that stands out that we might want to prioritize as our secondary stack? Because so far we've just gone 3 Ravens out of the gate.
Yeah, I think there's some value in just capturing another team that could go potentially, 2-3 rounds or fill out the other side of the Super Bowl. So right now, looking like maybe more optionality with. Yeah, I mean, we probably have to go NFC here to just try to build up both sides of it.
Hear me out here. Josh Jacobs just went. I was going to suggest if Josh Jacobs made it to us, maybe laying heavy on the Packers, but that won't be an option now.
I think Minnesota feels more viable than the Packers as far as likelihood to go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Rams because they're a fun offense when they're clicking, but I'm not sure I believe they can get there with their defense just being a bit of a sieve.
Yeah, I think I'd rather go Minnesota. Their quarterback, defense, and play calling seems stronger as far as we've seen the McVay offense struggle in the playoffs settling for field goals, and I think Minnesota knows better than to do that. So as far as that, do we want to take Bateman or Likely here, or do we want to take another?
I think I'm Bateman over Likely. I think in terms of if it was a tight end only position, maybe I could make the argument for Likely. But with Charlie Kolar coming back, he was activated off injured reserve today. Maybe he eats in just enough. It's a little bit difficult for Likely to get there on volume. He has looked better in the last few weeks, but Charlie on IR for that period.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think right now there's just value in saying, hey, there's, what's a team that can make it to the Super Bowl or maybe undervalued and spread the ball around. I don't mind missing out on Aaron Jones there simply because they're already kind of having to manage his workload, and they've shown that they trust Cam Akers to handle critical downs. I think he's had 2 red zone touchdowns and a few red zone touches, so that's a player definitely on our board to pair with our Addison. I think Minnesota is definitely very live to go multiple rounds here and help us out.
Yeah, yesterday I had Akers rushing line. It was 12.5 on Drafters Pick'ems. It was such an easy smash. Like he's been over that in 3 of the 4 previous games. I think he was over it by the end of the first quarter yesterday. Just one of those players that people still seem to be sleeping on a little bit, and there's definite value. Love that shout. So in terms of the rest of it, since we took Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown, Amari Cooper, Jaden Reed, Isaiah Pacheco, Dalton Kincaid, which, we were told he was a wide receiver, not a tight end. So let's see him be a wide receiver in this format.
You know what? I have to. I don't remember if I tweeted this out or not. It was a long weekend of a lot of personal stuff, but I've been comping Zach Ertz and Dalton Kincaid all season long to dunk on Dalton Kincaid, and I just want to say, Zach Ertz, I disrespected you. You showed a higher ceiling than Kincaid has in the last 2 seasons. In Week 17, the week that matters, absolutely doghoused Kincaid to close out the ceiling despite missing a game or two to concussion and shoulder. So, flowers to Zach Ertz, who at 37 years old, with half a leg left over, has still made Dalton Kincaid look like an overdrafted diva tight end.
Ben Sinnot's ADP rise and fall last offseason looks genuinely hilarious at this point. Like I wasn't pushing Zach Ertz until Zach Ertz was completely finished, but like now when you look back on it, it is absolutely wild. Yeah. We're a couple of picks away from our 6th pick, and obviously no running back so far. I think we're the only team in this room who doesn't have a running back so far. Yeah, so we should have some okay options falling to us, but do you think we double tap the running back position on this turn, or just one and then hit it a bit heavier later on?
Definitely one, might double tap simply because of the room. There's 3 teams with only one, so probably a double tap here. So do we want to take a Raven? Do we want to do Hill and Akers, or do we want a bigger hitter?
No, I'm good with that. I think, that's kind of like, it's not a high ceiling one, but it's a reasonable floor kind of situation.
It also keeps us live for a Super Bowl matchup of Minnesota and Baltimore, which is the whole point. We want to be able to field a full starting lineup in the Super Bowl. Vikings have 16% chance to get there. They're 36% chance to earn a bye. So we're also covering ourselves with the Ravens with the Vikings in case they earn that bye. And I think we'll have optionality going later. And yeah, our preferred options go right after us, but I feel good about getting the team stacks at running back.
Yeah, I'm just going to circle back just quickly before it comes back around to us. There was Ben Sinnott ADP getting all the way up to like 140 before kind of coming down, but never coming as close to Zach Ertz. So we all got that one wrong. Zach Ertz wins. Yep. Tyler, there we go. A screen.
Zach Ertz thwarted McBride slappies for half a season his rookie year, and he thwarted Ben Sinnott this year. Lesson learned: Cliff Kingsbury is going to Cliff Kingsbury, and I think there's a few coaches this season that put their balls on the table and reminded us, "I'm going to play who I want to play, and I don't care who you like."
Right, we are back up. Isaiah likely goes one pick before us. We could always do the Commanders double tap of Terry McLaurin and Jane Daniels if we wanted to get away from the plan that we had. I don't know how you feel about that. We've got 3 seconds, Tyler. I'll let you make the call here.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Gives us a little bit of cover. I think, I don't know. What if, yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm always worried about taking a second quarterback whenever the quarterback you take in the first round is live to make it all the way through.
Yeah. I mean, I think just here, there's just that kind of option of hitting both sides of it. And Daniel's ceiling's been so high. He's been over 30 points twice in the last 3 weeks. We've got a question in the chat from Brent. Appreciate the super chat, dude. Much appreciated. 0.5 PPR. I'm up 15. He has Deebo Samuel and Gibbs. Any chance? I mean, there's a chance. I don't feel amazing about that one because I think Gibbs can probably rack up 12 to 13 on his own.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to bench him before he finds the end zone and racks up, 80 yards of offense. But
Yeah,
there's always the chance that he sprains his ankle early and they go and pull him early, and then Debo's fat and slow. So I guess I'll give you a 15% chance.
what I would say is that Dan Campbell implicitly entrusts guys like Sean Vaki and what's his name, the other running back who pops up every couple of Thanksgivings,
Craig Reynolds.
Craig Reynolds. So I don't think they have any trouble putting them in for sizable amounts of snaps. It's just whether the combination can stay below 15, and I think that's going to be quite difficult. Although, one good game from Debo, and all of a sudden we're supposed to trust him? I don't know.
You sounded so much like Kevin McAllister just then. I don't think so.
We all do.
So I'm thinking probably take a running back here, and it probably needs to be a Washington guy since we don't need a 0 in Ty Chandler.
Yeah, I'm good with that. In terms of where we're at on these guys, so I mean, obviously Austin Ekeler hasn't played since week 12. He'll be eligible to come off IR soon, but there's a bit of risk in there. Would you prefer to go Brian Robinson and just lock up the kind of floor that we get from Robinson?
I think Eckler's back this coming week, isn't it?
He's definitely eligible to come off to play.
I think with Ekeler, it's slightly lower ADP, and I like the Brian Robinson's just not. Yeah, I think Eckler's the move here.
Cool, I'm good with
it. He's you know what, I did not say it last off season, but certainly he has the higher ceiling of the two guys. We've seen him have a 7-target game and a multi-touchdown game. They don't seem to want to use Brian Robinson like they use James Conner for whatever reason. And so I think as far as guys that could be very viable 1 or 2 weeks, Ekeler just seems like the guy that could. And then as far as just leverage in the finals or whatever, I think if the Commanders do make it, 2-3 rounds of the Super Bowl, you're going to see a lot more Brian Robinson than you will Austin Ekeler right now. And I think Eckler's ADP could rise a few spots.
Yeah, and we were definitely down on Ekeler this year, but there's been moments where he's looked good. He basically, the biggest barrier for him has been getting enough touches or enough receptions. Like, the receiving work he's got, he's been good with it. The yards per carry he's had has been fairly solid, about what you'd expect for Austin Ekeler at this point in his career. He just hasn't seen enough touches. So I do think when the game is on the line, there are paths for him to be far more useful. And like I say, I've been pretty disappointed in Brian Robinson over the last couple of weeks. I like this team. I think there's probably some stuff that we could do differently on it, but I think all in all, it's a nice, fun team. Tyler, any thoughts about the team before we start moving things along?
No, I think we did just fine here. I think next time around, probably just keep pushing it with the two teams, but you do have to get out of the first round, and that makes it a little tough. So I think we still solid construction despite that. Probably the double tap was maybe a little premature, but hard to know. A guy like Cam Akers might come back around, but at the end of the day, you didn't want to be completely locked out either.
No, that makes sense to me. So we'll jump in straight back into another mitten here, and we'll see where we end up on this one. This will be the last draft we do today, but we will do more of these shows over the next couple of weeks. So let us what you want to see. If you want to see more drafters content, or if you want to see more underdog content, me and Tyler will try and jump on again at some point over the next few days before week 18 wraps up. And then obviously next week, we're going to know plenty of information about what the playoffs are going to look like, so we can dive into things a lot more easily with a lot more information. 102 in this one. Lamar, if he falls to us, or do you want to mix it up, considering we've taken a couple of Lamar teams already tonight?
Either one of Allen or Lamar. I'm fine building out another Lamar team because there's a decent chance this is a Lamar Henry team, which would make this a vastly different outlook than a double Baltimore pass catcher one. So I think I prefer Lamar, but we're going to take one of Josh or Lamar here, unless you like Hurts over Allen.
No. Yeah, I'm good. I don't think you overthink it. And obviously, Hurts gets a decent amount of cheek sneak touchdowns and stuff, but like the difference between him and Allen is negligible. And the way the Bills have been playing, I've got slightly more faith in it being some play which involves Josh Allen than I do Jalen Hurts, because Saquon Barkley has been so good. So, just decent lean to Josh Allen ahead of Jalen Hurts. I think it's Lamar and Allen in their own tier, and then Jalen Hurts in his own tier below that.
Quick question for you. Their ADPs are close, but I feel like I might have Andrews higher lately, just given how the roles have shifted. So I'm curious what your like Zay Flowers versus Bateman versus Andrews take is, considering I think ADP combos are important to keep in mind. And it doesn't feel like Zay Flowers is a big tier above just how they're playing right now. But I'm curious for a hand in the dirt Ravens fans take.
Yeah, so for me, it felt like the best moment of the Ravens offense against the Eagles was when Zay Flowers was heavily involved in the early part of that game. And then as they kind of took Zay Flowers out of the game more, that's when things got a little bit worse and it looked worse as an offense and they struggled to move the ball. So I do think he provides something that when he's taken out of a game, it really is a struggle for the team to do so. I just kind of think in half PPR formats, because Andrews seems to just be scoring so many touchdowns that it's a little hard to get past that. So, like, you go back over the last 6 weeks and this PPR scoring, but Flowers has what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games below 12 PPR points. Whereas Andrews, because of the touchdowns that he's had in that period, he's had 4 games over 14 PPR points. So I've just got a slight lean to Andrews for that touchdown equity, but maybe we see in games that are more competitive, Zay Flowers going nuclear. But I'm completely fine with either. I think the difference is very minimal.
Let's play ADP. I don't want to forget that Zay almost had an incredibly huge game last year in y'all's last playoff game, but I will note that was when Bateman was struggling with health. So I wonder how much of that deep stuff is really valuable. I openly wonder if, if Bateman's role this year is more valuable than Zay Flowers' role, given the deep targets that Zay was seeing late last year and not seemingly seeing as much lately. But then I also wonder how much of that is just like how much adjustment will happen in the playoffs versus really good teams, versus right now where kind of everybody can eat. I just openly wonder about that, because I think it's worth dissecting just for potentially different combos this late. Like, more with more information comes tighter ADPs, and I don't know if it's worthwhile splitting hairs with takes, that because you're not likely to get a full onslaught.
Yeah, I think with Andrews, it's just like he's been such a reliable option in the red zone for the Ravens basically over the last few years. And Zay Flowers, he's only scored 9 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons combined. So it's like those aren't the kind of numbers that you'd really want from a guy towards the top tier. Obviously, Bateman this year is up to 7, 8 touchdowns, which has been fantastic for him. And it wouldn't take, the differences between where Zay's at with 4 touchdowns this year, or and where Bateman's at with 7. That's, it's negligible. Can easily swing the other way. But yeah, Zay, over the course of the first 9 weeks of the season, had 5 games over 18 PPR points. And since then, as the defense has kind of found its feet a little bit more, Mark Andrews has returned to health a little bit more, it just feels like they're not relying on him quite as much. He's still heavily involved and seeing lots of targets, but they're able to spread it around. And it definitely has given me a couple of little headaches over the last couple of weeks on what to do with him. But in the playoffs, like you say, and like we touched on earlier, teams lean into what works, and I wouldn't be surprised if Flowers had a couple of really big games.
Yeah, agreed. Question for you is, do we want to? So Bateman feels like the auto click here, but just buy us a few extra seconds. How do you want to do the next pick? Do you want to start doing the NFC side, or do we want to maybe target a running back from that side as well? Curious how you want to play this.
So yeah, obviously Bateman, but I mean, we could create something fun with the Rams. Kyron Williams maybe, or Puka Nakua, and it's probably Kyron Williams, so isn't it?
Yeah, I think for our needs, if he comes back around, Kyron feels smart. And yeah, they're building out. Interesting that they take Darnold, but yeah, so they're playing for a Bills Vikings. I think here we can build out. I think getting two rounds out of Kyron feels doable.
Yeah, I'm good with that, and I think there's the potential for more. They're a team who are smart, and obviously they've had some real stinkers. But you look at the game against the Bills as well; they went toe to toe for a vast majority of it.
Yeah, I mean, they feel like a team that's viable. Their defense has gotten stronger. Their offense feels like it's struggling, but managing. So 1-for-1, but the game management. I know they're not going to go deep, but this team can make it to the divisional round just fine, and that could potentially be plenty for this team getting other picks. So,
yes, sir, I agree with you on that one. If for any reason anyone who's watching this an hour and 10 minutes in about strategy on Underdog and hasn't signed up, use the promo code Sanctuary when you sign up for up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick'em. Absolutely well worth your while, and we will be doing loads of Underdog best ball streams here on the channel over the next 9 months.
Yeah, folks, we're gonna stream like the Dickens, and I will stream a shitload of the pre-draft stuff with Tom, with Rich, and with guests, and sometimes solo. Solo, boy, girl. You never know what you're gonna find here on the channel, but we'll have a ton of fun, and I love breaking down free agency and draft rumor stuff. So come hang out and enjoy that in the new year. And typically the pre-draft stuff drops right around Super Bowl weekend, sometimes a little earlier. So come join us. We'll have a ton of fun.
Right, where are we going here? We're back on the clock. Do you want to go straight into the Rams with Cooper Kupp, or would you prefer to take a Ravens running back in Justice Hill and make sure that we've kind of got someone out there?
I think we're going to get both guys. So
Yeah,
I'll play the Kupp thing just in case that tempts our little one-hole builder with Buffalo, Minnesota. But it seems like they'll mind their lane, and I don't know that we have any other issues.
Yep. So they go with two Buffalo Bills players, and let Justice Hill fall back to us.
I'm gonna invite Justice Jill on the stream.
That's a whole other topic. So where are we at through 6 rounds, Tyler?
We are sitting in a 1-2-4 build. Lamar Jackson, Kyron Williams, Justice Hill, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, and Cooper Kupp currently build out our team.
Do you feel like we need anything more on the NFC side from a different team, or we can just ride this as the Ravens are going to keep putting up points, and that should carry us if we get maybe 2 rounds out of the Rams?
Yeah, I think I feel comfortable counting on the Rams. Obviously would have liked Kyron and Puka, but we wanted to make sure we had a Ravens running back. So Puka goes. I think I feel fine. Cooper Kupp feels kind of deadish, but he's still seeing a few targets and can luck box his way into a touchdown. But I think Kyron for sure feels more than enough, and I think right now leaning into the Ravens. I wouldn't mind Corum, but if anything, maybe deviating for let's see, maybe an NFC running back or an AFC running back feels like maybe prudent. I could be talking to a couple different things here. Likely also pretty tempting for just building out Ravens full stuff as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a strong lean on this one. I think, if you were looking at NFC running back, Kenny Gainwell kind of makes sense, or you could look at J.K. Dobbins. I'm not sure if you've ever
J.K. Dobbins is J.K. Dobbins is pretty interesting with Gus Edwards on IR and his role being pretty strong.
Yeah.
I think we'll get him back around. I think I lean another Baltimore pick. I think likely and Dobbins feel like my preferred go there with this build.
Oh, Tyler, we've come so far from the days of you slandering Rashad Bateman and J.K. Dobbins over the summer.
Hey, playoff basketball simplifies everything. You don't care how good they are. You just want money.
And volume is absolutely going to be king for J.K. Dobbins over the next couple of weeks.
ADP. I don't think we're at risk of losing Dobbins, but
yeah,
I think we're at less risk of losing Likely. What do you think?
No, I'm good with that. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for them to take Likely over some of the options around.
Yep, I agree.
And obviously, if this was a tight end position, then maybe that would be more straightforward for them if they needed a tight end. But yeah, I think you can talk yourself obviously into the Bills and Ravens playing in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think.
And the thing with Justice Hill is he might miss like another week or two just with the concussion stuff. You never know how it's going to work out. So I feel more need to get coverage than if he was healthy. I feel like I'd be okay rolling with just Justice, but JK feels a little prudent, not knowing what the Justice Hill return is going to look like just yet.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, because I mean, Keaton Mitchell looked okay towards the end of the game last week. Rasheen Ali's had his moments, but I think ultimately when the playoffs are online, you've got some vicious pass rush coming. Justice Hill is so good against blitz, probably is okay, but we'll have to see. Where you at for this one last Rams pick? Or do you prefer sticking with the Ravens side?
I think if we're counting on 2+ rounds of Rams, potentially Super Bowl as well, I think the Rams make more sense here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good for that. I think my lean would be towards either Blake Corum or Tyler Higbee. Demarcus Robinson seems to have dropped off a little bit lately. I don't know how you feel about that.
I just want the guy that's going to catch a touchdown. Recently, it's been Higbee, but I feel like it could truly be anybody. I think Corum, I think that's betting against Kyron, so I think, yeah, Higbee's fine. I just won't hear it now. I do think that Marcus Robinson catches a touchdown in the playoffs just because that's how it goes. But that wraps up our mitten draft 1-3-6 build. Lamar Jackson, Kyron Williams, Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, Cooper Kupp, Isaiah Likely, and Tyler Higbee.
Lovely. Love it. I think that's a fun team. Definitely one which we can look back on in a couple of weeks and see how the ADP is shaking out over things. But, it's two teams who are definitely in, two teams that have got some upside and plenty of good players on them. So there's lots that I can like about that one. We're going to wrap things up there and leave it for this week. Well, we might be back in a few days' time. Me and Tyler will reconvene, see what we can do when we can next get back into the streets, both drafters and Underdog. Leave us a comment on the channel down below once the stream is over. Tell us which platform you want to see more drafts on. Tell us what you want to know about playoff best ball. Loads more content coming your way, and Rich is just gearing up for rookie season. Hit the subscribe button. Truly appreciate everyone hanging out tonight. We'll be back soon.